the new Codex Trust Fund supports countries to build strong, solid, and sustainable national capacity to engage in Codex. So just to look at the scope and focus of the support from the Codex Trust Funds. So now we're really, we're moving from Codex Trust Fund 1 was a catalyst to expose countries to Codex. And that's why the focus was on physical participation. It was necessary, and I think all of us will agree that it really helped an enormous amount, but there's more to be done. And the diagnosis that was carried out both by FAO WHO and also by the final project evaluation said the next step is really focusing now on strengthening national Codex capacity. So we're looking at the pieces, the well-managed work on Codex at national level, the knowledge and capacities, the scientific and technical input, the use of Codex texts at national level to improve food safety and quality, and of course ensuring that Codex is linked to and embedded really in all the work that you're doing to have a strong, sustainable, and well-functioning food safety system. So with the outcome of ensuring that countries' delegations are better prepared when attending Codex meetings, they more effectively contribute, they set priorities, and get more out of Codex. So the major shift in focus. As I said, we've moved from pure focus on physical participation to providing support through packages to build strong national Codex systems. So whilst there can still be support for physical participation, it needs to be embedded in a whole package of capacity building at national level, of which physical participation in 1, 2, or maybe 3 Codex meetings is just a part. So how does that physical participation link back to helping you build a strong Codex structure, being very well prepared for that priority Codex meeting when you go and participate, doing the knowledge management when you get back to country to already be working on preparing your next participation in a session of the same meeting. So it all needs to be linked together now. And once again, support for activities that further engage the engagement in Codex. So what is the Codex Trust Fund 2? Well, similar to the previous Codex Trust Fund, it's an FAO-WHO joint program. The Secretariat is based at WHO in Geneva. It will run for another 12 years, the same as the previous Codex Trust Fund. So we opened in January 2016, and the program will end in December 2027. There are 103 developing and transition economy countries eligible to apply for support. Individual countries or groups of countries can apply. We'll go into that a little bit later when we talk about the application process, but a country can choose to put in an application as an individual country, or they can choose to be part of a group of countries who are applying through a group application. There is support given over a number of years. It's not just 1-year support or 2-year support, but the maximum support period is 3 years. Now, eligibility, what we have decided to go with is we're using as the basis for our eligibility the Human Development Index of the UNDP. So all Codex member countries who have low or medium human development status, which is the HDI, which is on the UNDP website, and in addition, any low or middle incomed small island developing states or landlocked developing countries which have high human development index. So that is the basis for the eligibility. So let's now look very briefly at what can be supported. Before in Codex Trust Fund 1, we were supporting you to physically participate in a Codex meeting. Now we're looking at building strong and sustainable national Codex structures. So what kinds of activities would that encompass? This is not an exhaustive list. This is to give you an idea of the types of activities that would be relevant. So it's things like advocacy for policy and decision makers on the role and value of Codex, because we know that you need to get economic and political support in your country. It's training for those working directly on Codex. It's things around the documents and working procedures for Codex work. It might be an activity that helps you learn from other countries. Codex Trust Fund also believes, FAO and WHO also believe, that twinning and mentoring can be good ways of exchanging and learning. There can be training on specific scientific and technical areas to enhance the scientific and technical input into Codex. As I stated before, there can be support to physical participation at Codex meetings as long as it's integrated, as long as we can see how it fits in, complements and builds on other capacity building that's going on in the country. And then there could also, in some circumstances, be support for collection and use of national data for Codex work. What cannot be supported? Very important. So, we're really concentrating on, once again, your effective engagement in Codex. Codex Trust Fund cannot support all capacity building in food safety. So just a few ideas of areas. We couldn't support a broad review of legislation, or building capacities of laboratory, or doing training on good hygiene practices, good manufacturing practices, good agricultural practices, HACCP, etc., nor on the broader area of food safety policy. So with that short presentation, I'll just leave the slide up with some of the key contacts and websites. And of course, the Codex Trust Fund website should be your first place to go to. And if anybody wants to come and see me and we work through the Codex website, Codex Trust Fund website, I'd be perfectly happy to do so. Thank you very much, Chair.
It has been mentioned already this morning that in order to make an application to the Codex Trust Fund, countries and applicants are required to carry out a self-diagnosis of their current status of their Codex system, and in order to identify where things are working well and where there are strengths in the Codex system and where there are weaknesses. And for that reason, FAO and WHO have developed the Codex diagnostic tool that I believe many of you are already familiar with. And this is available on the Codex Trust Fund website in five different languages, including English, French, and Spanish. So the Codex diagnostic tool is a very, very important first step, and we encourage this strongly to be carried out, obviously, in a multidisciplinary way with the key actors in your country involved in carrying out the diagnosis, coordinated through your Codex contact point. Results then of once you've understood the strengths and weaknesses in your national Codex program, these are used then as a basis for developing the application and really trying to fine-tune where are those weaknesses and where do you want to reach after a 1 or 2 or 3 year time frame. So you really use that information to plan areas of support areas that you would like to improve in your national Codex structure. The application forms and guidance on the application form, again, are on the Codex Trust Fund website. Templates are available. There are forms and there are templates, and clearly, like applying to any fund, there is a need to follow, let's say, we hope, the fairly simple and clear rules and the application form. As mentioned this morning, it does need to be, we need to see that there is cross-sectoral input to the application process and development, and then also that it's signed off by FAO and WHO. And again, it's submitted through an online system that is housed in the Codex Trust Fund in WHO in Geneva. And again, for the next application round, there will be strict deadlines, and we really have to manage and ensure that applications are made on time according to the next call for applications, an online system. Then the application process, again, to ensure to manage it and to ensure a transparent and fair method within FAO and WHO and with the Codex Trust Fund Secretariat, we have developed quite a process, and you can see many steps here on how we accept all the applications and then how we review and arrive at final decisions on which are the successful applications. We did that for the first round. We will do it for future rounds. So very quickly, applications are submitted through the Codex contact point in the applying country, through the online system. There's a pre-screening carried out by the Codex Trust Fund in Geneva, just to check the completeness, to check these countries are eligible, this country is eligible, is it signed off by FAO, WHO, many of the things that are outlined in the guidelines. So there's an initial screening to see which applications pass that first screening. We also engage our FAO and WHO regional officers to get their input, because often they have information, and working with you at country level to see if this really makes sense as an application, or if there's any further information that they should be providing to us in FAO and WHO headquarters. And then we go through a stage of technical review by a small group that we have formed with membership from FAO, WHO, and the Codex Secretariat. And we assess all of the applications against a criteria. So we're not comparing one application against another, we're comparing all against a set of criteria that we have developed. And finally, the final decision and discussion happens at the steering committee, which again is another part of the Codex Trust Fund system, where we have FAO, WHO, and the Codex Secretariat. So we just want you to be confident that there is quite a system and transparent and fair process in place. The diagnostic tool, then briefly, we have the diagnostic tool, and this is really a self-assessment tool that countries and teams of people at country level can use to assess the current status of their national Codex program, to assess capacities and competencies within individuals working on Codex, within your processes and management of Codex work, and your institutional setup for Codex work. So it's really an assessment of the system, not any one individual, but the whole, all the parts that make up a national Codex system. Here, those of you who are familiar with it, we tried to map out, and this is the basis of the self-assessment. We mapped out what do we think are key elements that need to be in place to know if you have a robust system or not, or to ensure a robust system and to ensure you are planning and effectively participating in Codex. On the left of the screen, you will see the key elements. They cover mechanisms and processes, including your Codex contact point functioning, but also how you consult nationally, how you manage Codex work. The second element is related to knowledge and understanding of Codex work. So again, we know to effectively participate in Codex, you need to have good knowledge of Codex rules and processes and procedures, but you also need a very strong scientific and technical knowledge of many of the issues that are being discussed. So how strong are you in that area in your country? And the third element that you would be assessing is the policy framework and how your Codex work links to your food control system in your country as well, and other aspects. So 3 key elements on the left, and on the right then we broke it down, and as you go through the assessment tool, you will see that we've broken it down into sub-elements to give it a more manageable assessment. We've outlined, again, what are some of the strong hallmarks of an effective national Codex programme, covering the Codex office, sound consultation processes, adequate scientific and technical resources. So you were self-assessing and coming up with your auto-portrait by using this tool. Going through the diagnosis, there is a 4-step process then for each sub-element, where we have included good practices and a scale of 1 to 4. So you are really trying to assess against each good practice, whether it's how good you have a process for submitting written comments, or how do you debrief after a meeting, or how do you consult at national level. You're making a decision against each good practice. Are we really at level 1, so we're at the initial stage of capacity, and we need to improve from a very basic level? Are we at level 2, which is emerging, and you have a national capacity, but you might need more guidance and support? Level 3, you're stronger, you're progressing well, but you might need some minimal help. And level 4, you're really in a strong position. So you're self-assessing, as we say. And you will see in the document that there are these type of tables, good practices down on the left, and then you're ticking boxes in terms against each good practice, what is your strength. And finally, using the results. At the end of your self-assessment, you will be left with a lot of tables and a lot of strengths and varying levels of strengths and weaknesses. And there are some tables at the end of the document which really help you try to get a global picture of this and see where should we really be focusing, where are we the weakest and where are we the strongest, or what combination of capacities do we want to build on. And this is then helping you to use this information from the diagnostic tool to plan an application or to plan important activities at country level. And we recommend that this diagnostic tool is very important, obviously, if you want to apply to the Codex Trust Fund, but not only. Countries can also use it and plan improving other parts of your system, your Codex system, with support from other donors, with support from your own internal funding, etc.
So what is your starting point? Well, your starting point should always be go and get the information. And now in our information overload world, of course, what we do is we just put everything on the website. So it's all on the website. Please go to the website. We have a whole tab that's dedicated to applying for support. It has the guidance document on how to prepare applications. It has frequently asked questions. It has the template for an individual application. It has the template for the group application. It has the diagnostic tool in all the languages. Everything is there, and we've tried to consolidate it in one place. So please go, pick it up, familiarize yourself with it. In terms of understanding the scope of the Codex Trust Fund and the range of activities that can be requested, your best source of information is the founding project document for the Codex Trust Fund. It used to be on our landing page for the Codex Trust Fund website. We left it there for many, many months. We've now moved it into our documents archives. But if you have any problem, any questions, any doubts, most of you know me. You know that I'm very responsive. If you can't find something, drop me an email. I'll guide you immediately. Those are really important information sources. You must start with the information before you can move forward. When you're ready, moving forward, we've tried to provide guidance that helps you move seamlessly from the results of the diagnostic tool into preparing a robust application. And we've now moved into, we're providing support now for development activities, for capacity building at national level, which means that we're also adopting, all of us, the best practices in development. And that includes the state of the art in how we present our case for our project. So tips on terminology. So in the application, we will ask you, what is your project goal? That is the overall goal that you are working towards. What is the overall goal that you're seeking to achieve as a result of this 3 years support? Outcomes, next level down. What are the changes that you expect to see as a result of the interventions? And these could be behavior changes. These could be people acting differently in Codex meetings, people coming to Codex meetings prepared with national positions, knowing how to negotiate those positions, knowing how to consult capital, those people going back and giving recommendations and a solid debriefing back at national level. Just, those are ideas, those are outcomes, those are people behaving differently. Outputs and deliverables is the next down, and that's the more immediate thing that you're looking for. So for example, in an application, if you're saying, well, we want to strengthen our Codex contact point in office, and you might say, well, one of the things that we'd really like is to have, our national Codex procedural manual, how we do things, how we consult with stakeholders, etc. That could be a direct and concrete deliverable, an output, is to have that document that you didn't have before. It's something tangible that you can show, okay? And then the next level down is, what are the activities that you need to put in place to have that deliverable or to have that output? Okay, so it's the results-based framework. It's the logical frameworks that I think most people now are used to using. But I can only encourage you, if you're not familiar with this, then once again, there's sources that you can get help. You can talk to your FAO and WHO country offices. You can get in touch with us. You can get in touch with regional officers. So what would a robust application look like? You would move from the weaknesses that you have bubbled to the surface with your Codex diagnostic tool. You'd be looking at what it is that I want to do in the short term, which gives you those outputs, those immediate results. And then what change do you want to make over time? That's the construction. That's the framework that we want you to build up in an application. And the robust applications that we got in this time around, we could clearly see that logic moving through the application, okay? And underpinning all of it is what activities you need to deliver those outputs and to achieve those outcomes. And because we're running a little bit short of time, I think now hand over to the second part.
Just to share with you now how the applications are assessed. We said earlier that the technical review group looks at all applications and assesses them against a set of criteria. The things we're looking at in terms of deciding on the robustness of applications or the strength of applications are these different items listed here. They reflect a number of the things that Catherine has already referred to in the last few slides. We want to see, or we're looking to see, if there's intersectoral collaboration is evident at country level to prepare the application. Are the results of the Codex diagnostic tool evident, and are they well used? Is there a clear project goal? Do you have this higher level long-term goal? Then do you have clear measurable outputs, the tangible outputs that Catherine referred to? And how are your activities to reach those outputs set up? Are they clear what you're requesting for in the application? And do they make sense? Would that set of activities help you achieve that output and then contribute to the longer term goal? Those of you, and I know you are many, that are experienced in developing projects and planning projects and making applications. This is a very standard approach, if you want to say, from goal, outcome, outputs and activities. We also want to see further criteria that we look at in the applications, a clear indication of timelines and responsibilities for delivery. How sustainable? Have you reflected and considered potential risks at country level to the delivery if you were successful in this application? And also how you're working to ensure that the results from this support, if you receive it from the Codex Trust Fund, how can that be built on and ensured and the results maintained by other action in your country, by your government, etc. Identifying risks and risk management strategies, and then a detailed, realistic and clear application, a clear budget, sorry. So these are the criteria that we look at all applications. Just want to share with you very quickly, there are a number of strong points or elements that make strong applications, and they are listed here, including the multi-sectoral, good choice of activities and support, a good blend of activities. We know that to build a national codex program, you need many different types of capacities, and so that would naturally flow that an application would include activities in different areas to build those capacities. I'd rather spend a tiny bit of time on the common weaknesses that we found, and this is what we learned and observed from the first round of applications. We're not undermining the good work that was done in the applications. There were many fine applications, and then there were some that definitely showed there were some challenges in preparing the applications. One area was related to this project design and logical framework was weak, that we didn't see a progressive moving from the weaknesses identified in the diagnostic tool and then stacking it up into ensuring that if we get this support, it makes sense to meet those needs. Sometimes there were just too many activities requested, tangible results were not clear, activities were disjointed, maybe there were requests for data generation, but these were not relevant to ongoing work in Codex. Targeting of awareness raising outside scope of the Codex Trust Fund. So they were some common weaknesses related to project design and logical framework. The request for too many physical participations. We know that there can be some physical participation in this Codex Trust Fund too, but again, in some applications we saw a very long shopping list, and we've really moved on from that. We want to see integrated approach. Weekly written applications, and then earlier we had mentioned requests for activities in the applications that are really beyond the scope of Codex Trust Fund, which is focused on enhancing effective participation in Codex. One final slide, and I know the time is up, Mr. Chair. We also do want to remind you that you can make individual and group applications to the Codex Trust Fund. Individual is one country requesting support. Group is a number of countries coming together where they have identified we have common weaknesses in this area, and maybe if we can submit a joint group application, this would better serve our needs. And the way you can arrive at that could be that many countries apply and use the diagnostic tool, and then they start to talk together and say, well, we've identified, we all have number 2s in that area or number 4s, so why don't we put together a group application? Or there may be discussions ongoing or issues that are raised in Codex meetings that are a weakness or a challenge that a group of countries are facing, and there may be an intelligent and thoughtful group application that could be made to the Codex Trust Fund.